Hey guys, welcome back to another great game of CEDH. Today we are rocking the brand new Final Fantasy Commanders to see how they perform at a CEDH level. I love getting these new sets, and man, this one did not disappoint. The power level is insane, and I can't wait to show the game off. Also, mtga Vegas is almost upon us, so if you're attending, let me know in the comments. I'll be recording games of CEDH for the channel all weekend long. But starting us off today is Dan from the CEDH network on Sephiroth, Fabled Soldier. This is a mono black turbo list aiming to combo off with a few different infinite creature death combos to let you drain the table out with your commander, who can help you pad your life total and draw you extra cards while you assemble your combos. Next up is Hidden on Noctis. This is a Grixis mid-range list aiming to use Aetherflux or similar type effects to recast 0 mana rocks from your graveyard, as you have multiple different ways to get around those pesky finality counters. In the third spot is Ghost Dealers from the Doom of Fools podcast on Vivi. Probably one of the most hyped commanders from the set, Vivi is the second coming of Niv Mizzet, letting you go basically infinite with a curiosity type effect to ping the table down and draw you a whole bunch of cards. And bringing up the rear is the Flurgan on Yuna, Grand Summoner. Bant Creatures aims to combo off with Yuna and a Penman's Aura to make infinite counters on either a Walking Ballista, Sage of Hours, or even a Polywog Prodigy.
Alright, block there, kill that. Oh, that is trample. Guess I'm just dead on board.
The Flurgan has a pregame as he puts the Gemstone Caverns into play, exiling a forest. Dan starts the game off proper with a swamp into a Soul Ring. Hidden has a tapped Undercity Sewers, surveilling the card to the top, ending his turn with an LED. Ghost Dealers also has a Surveil land, as he plays out a Thundering Falls, bidding an Otawaro. The Flurgan casts a Finhorn Elves and has a tapped Witch-Blessed Meadow as land. Dan plays out another Swamp, tapping the land for a Forsaken Miner, and then following that up with his commander Sephiroth, who on ETB sacks his Miner to draw him a card and drain Hidden for 1. Hidden draws for turn and plays and cracks of Marsh Flats for a Scrubland, tapping 2 to cast a Lotho. Ghost Dealers has a Shivan Reef and with the help of a Spirit Guide casts his commander Vivi. The Flurgan on his turn slams down a Voice of Victory, but has to pass after the creature resolves. Dan has an Urza Saga as land for turn, but is feeling the Mold of 5 as he passes it there. Hidden plays and cracks a Verdant Catacombs. And yes, I realize as I'm editing, I couldn't have fetched the Tundra I got. I unfortunately mixed up the 2 fetches I had. As Hidden then for 2 casts a Blind Obedience. Ghost Dealers plays out a Mana Confluence and keeps his mana open as he passes the turn. The Flurgan untaps and casts a Birds of Paradise. He then heads to combat and sends the Voice and 2 warriors at Hidden, who takes the hit, with the Flurgan at end step sacrificing the tokens. This triggers Sephiroth to drain Hidden twice, and Dan then pays to return his Miner, which does feel like a mistake from the Flurgan. Dan draws for turn and uptakes his Saga. He then heads to combat, sending Sephiroth back at Hidden, with him on attack sacrificing his Miner to draw another card, drain Hidden, and crime once again to bring his Miner back, with Dan on his second main playing out a Swamp as land for turn, and following that up with a Walking Ballista, where X equals 2. Hidden plays out an Otawaro as land and taps out for his commander Noctis. Ghost Dealers heads to his turn but misses on land as he passes again. The Flurgan casts a Green Sun where X equals 2. He finds a Kinnan and then can tap his bird for an Arcane Signet. This will trigger Lotho as he loses a life and makes a treasure. Dan draws and uptakes his Saga. He'll float a colorless, but before the search can go off, Ghost Dealers bolts Sephiroth. This puts a Vivi trigger on the stack as everyone takes 1 and the wizard grows. Dan then goes searching and finds a Skull Clamp. Dan then plays out a Swamp and equips his Miner with the Clamp, spending the rest of his mana to recast his commander, sacrificing his Miner once again. This time he draws 3 cards and drains Hidden once again. Hidden then untaps and casts a Smothering Tithe. There is some debate over whether or not Ghost Dealers would interact here, with Hidden convincing him that unless he starts drawing extra cards, the extra mana isn't much of an issue, and it could potentially help against Dan, who is basically ancestraling every round, with Hidden also choosing to extort the spell as well. Ghost Healers then draws for turn, pays for the Tithe trigger, and once again misses his land drop, passing after that. Deflurgan has a Cavern of Souls as land and names Human. He casts an uncounterable commander and then also realizes he needs to pay for the Tithe, which he does, passing after that. Dan draws for turn and pays for the Tithe.
Okay. We're here. Guys, how hard should I push buttons?
I mean, you're the only one with buttons right now.
I mean, the people demand action, do they not?
So, Dan casts a defense grid, to which Ghost Healers gives him an offer he can't refuse. The table will take 1 off Vivi, while Dan makes 2 tapped treasures. He then follows this up with a Scheming Symmetry.
Let's have a conversation. Here's a Scheming Symmetry.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta choose 2 target players. One of them's me.
The correct play is probably Ghost Healers. I mean, I'd love it, but...
I mean,
Well,
so...
that's also just like a curiosity for him, which
yes,
is...
Ghost Healer seems gone. Now, here's my thing. I'll be honest about this. I really think Hidden has interaction. So I feel like if I throw this at Ghost Stealers, like, we obviously know it goes against curiosity. But, you know, I think there's interaction at the table. Also, this takes some target off of me slightly, I guess. But also, there's the argument of just go Deflurgan. But I know there's Voice of Victory. But then
yeah, I'm not going to get Voice of Victory and he has 1,000,000 mana, so I don't know.
I'm not getting Curiosity because I don't have any spells on my turn to pop off. Right, I just have counter
that's
spells.
Fair. Well, that's why I want to have a conversation about it. If anybody wants to like talk to me about what they want to get, like, I'm cool.
I mean,
I would just get like
to be tempted.
I'd get a One Ring or a Rhystic Study, to be honest. I need to get back in this game somehow. I have a Mana Vault in hand that's dead.
Yeah, that sounds pretty decent. Could I tempt you into...
I have a Dispel, but I don't have mana for it, so I can't say anything otherwise.
Really okay, yeah, that sounds good, actually. I mean, I was already leaning to target you regardless, so I'm going to target you then. And myself, obviously.
With this also triggering Lotho to make Hidden a treasure. As it's also a crime, Dan then rebuys his miner once again. Dan and Ghost Healers then both find a card to put on top, and Dan then heads to combat. He sends his commander at Deflurgan and sacrifices the miner off the attack. He drains Hidden and draws a card, making Hidden another treasure off the Tithe. Dan then on his second main plays out another swamp into a Dark Ritual, using the mana on a Warren Soul Trader. Although luckily for the table, while this is a combo for the win, the Blind Obedience has the treasures come into play tapped. And while it can't combo off this second, Ghost Healers doesn't like the idea of when he has to remove the Blind Obedience, giving a combo window to Dan as well, so he force of wills it, pitching a Dispel. Ghost Healers also admits he has a wheel on top, has his reasoning for using the counter magic. This also triggers Lotho and Vivi to ping the table and make Hidden another treasure. Hidden then heads to his turn and casts a Grand Abolisher. The creature resolves as Hidden then follows that up with a Teferi Time Raveler. And while Ghost Healers might have a pretty fierce guardianship, he can't use it, as Hidden debates what's to do with the Walker. Also, this is a Lotho trigger as Hidden makes another treasure. Hidden then decides that giving Deflurgan a fresh grip with a Voice of Victory already out is scarier than Vivi, at least for the moment, as he decides to downtick Teferi to bounce the creature, but has to pass it there. Ghost Healers untaps, draws for turn, and doesn't pay for the Tithe. He taps his 3 lands to cast a Wheel of Fortune. He pings a table off Vivi as the table discards their hand and draws a fresh 7. This puts a whole bunch of Smothering Tide triggers on the stack, with Deflurgan paying for one of them, and Hidden making 20 treasures. Ghost Healers then activates Vivi for 4 mana and uses 3 of it on an Amphibian Eye, leaving him with a red floating. This puts a Lotho and Vivi trigger on the stack, letting Hidden make another treasure and a ping to the table. The enchantment resolves as Ghost Healers then cast a Mox Diamond. This is another Vivi trigger, and this time he draws 3 off the Amphibian Eye. And for now, I'm going to stop commenting on the Smothering Tide triggers, as Hidden will be making quite a few this turn, with Ghost Healers not actually having the land to keep the diamond. He unfortunately doesn't have the ability to combo off just yet, So instead he casts a red elemental blast on the Teferi. This triggers Vivi to ping the table and draw Ghost Stealers 3 more cards. But with the blast still on the stack, Hidden casts a mental misstep. He extorts the spell and stops the blast. Ghost Stealers then plays out a Scalding Tarn as land for turn, cracking the fetch for Volcanic Island, which he then taps to gamble. The table takes 1, and Ghost Stealers continues to draw, and then makes a deal with the Flurgan to have him take out the Teferi on his turn, so Ghost Stealers can interact with the table. Ghost Stealers then finds and randomly discards a Mystical Tutor, as he ends his turn with combat, sending Vivi at Teferi, to which Hidden chumps with his Lotho, and Ghost Stealers then discards due to hand size. The Flurgan has a tapped Temple Garden as land for turn, and then heads to combat.
I can swing all 3 of my creatures at Teferi, and one of them will get through.
Up to you, big dog.
Yeah, let's do that. We want to do that anyways, right?
I mean, I'd prefer not to.
Because I have Submerge. I have Submerge for Grand Abolisher at that point.
I feel like me doing that, though, also means that I can't really interact.
We can't interact because of Grand Abolisher and Teferi. Like, I'm confused.
Yeah, I know.
I got you on counter spells. Like, we're good in that department. I'll interact. You kill the creatures.
We do have to be careful about him untapping as well. I just will remind you.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I think you kill the Teferi. So just in case Dan fucks around and finds out, we're not just like, fuck.
Oh boy.
Like, I'll show you the Submerge. Like, I got it. Ready. Gamble for Submerging is like the best thing I've ever done in Magic.
That makes it sound like you haven't done very many good things in Magic.
Exactly.
Man, the voice of victory would come in clutch right now, swinging it to Teferi.
Yeah.
So this is kind of awkward. I probably shouldn't like even say anything at this point, but like I'm just milling over it in my brain. I gotta be honest. I wasn't bullshitting. My hand doesn't do anything, but also I completely lose this game 100% guaranteed if I don't win on my next turn. So I'm incentivized to do anything just to see enough cards and like try to win, right? So like I can't right now. I'm like not even shitting you. I would literally reveal my hand. Actually, I just will for fun. This hand can't win the game. It's just garbage. But like I'm incentivized to protect the Teferi so that I have protection with Walking Ballista, and then just draw as many cards as I possibly can, even though it's only going to be like 3. You know what I mean?
Think,
so like,
I think spending 1 counter off of Ballista to kill Teferi is still.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like I have the power to remove the Teferi on my turn, but I would like it for my turn. So I feel like I'm incentivized to protect it.
Yeah, but aren't you drawing 3 cards? And that deck's explosive, right? You have so many combos.
Yes, but you
Well,
have a Submerge.
he's saying
so I'm
wants the
incentivized
Teferi
to
around
protect it.
as protection for his board.
Right, but I have a Submerge, and if he doesn't kill it, then you're not going to kill it if you draw the win, right?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that look at my position in this game. Hidden wins on their turn unless his hand is complete ass. If by some miracle Hidden doesn't win, go Steelers. You win the game.
I have a lot of counter spells for Hidden, is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
I think
so then you win the game.
But the issue is all those counterspells then protect your win on your turn.
Yeah, so all I'm saying...
Right, so I want to use the counterspell.
Yes,
last in turn order here.
Sure, I'm just saying where my position is I lose or I lose or I lose if I don't make something happen on my turn.
Me, but...
So you're making us want to kill the Teferi is what you're trying to say. Gotcha.
Kill the Teferi. I'm saying that I will be incentivized to use my Walking Ballista to attempt to protect the Teferi if you go for attacks on Teferi here, because it's my only window to potentially win the game. However, if you don't go for attacks and I don't draw the win, I have the way to kill the Teferi right here. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's just a double-edged sword, right?
It's not. I mean, it's just a decision point. I'm just saying, like, I'm incentivized to protect the Teferi until it hits my turn, but I do have a way to get rid of the Teferi on my turn. So you can make your decision, but like, look at my position in the game. You know what I mean? Drawing 3 cards with protection is like my best play. So I'll try to protect that, and then if I fail to draw the win, I still have Ballista to remove the Teferi, unless you force it now. But it's all up to you, dog. I'm just telling you where my position is. I'm being honest about my like analysis of my board state. Like I'm dead.
Right. Well, in that case, I'll let you kill the Teferi on your turn, assuming you don't do anything. Because there's absolutely nothing I can do right now. And if I swing at him with all 3 of my creatures, then he's just saying that he's going to ping the Finhorn Elves. And then Hidden's free to block the other 2. And that just fucks me over.
This is what I'm saying.
So instead, Defurgan Green Suns again for 2, this time finding a Thrasios. He then casts a Mox Diamond and discards a Bountiful Promenade, ending his turn there. Dan untaps and casts an Ornithopter. He clamps the creature and then heads to combat, sending Sephiroth at Ghost Stealers for 3, sacrificing his Ornithopter to drain Hidden and draw Dan 3 more cards. With him then on his second main playing out a City of Traders. He casts a Lively Dirge, paying for the spree, and then bins and reanimates a Nested Shambler and a Warehouse Tabby. Dan continues pushing as he clamps his Shambler. He takes the creature out, drawing him 2 cards, draining Hidden, and also making 2 1/1s. Granted, he clamps both of them to draw himself 4 more cards.
It's so sad, right? Because I could literally draw... Oh, that's annoying. Okay. Now I actually have to think math. So here's where I am. This is why I'm in my head so much. Is like I have a couple different like weird ways to go about getting another Skull Clamp, but still leaving myself some mana. There's one path that is narrower for me to actually like convert, and then there's another path which is like slightly more open, but it requires me to kill the Ballista without killing the Teferi, which basically says Hidden wins. So it's like, but in that reality, I also increase my odds of winning here, but it's all like a numbers game. And since I lose no matter what, I feel like I still am more incentivized.
So Dan then equips the Ballista. He puts a damage at Hidden, with the Ballista then dying due to state-based actions. Dan will draw 2, and then drain Hidden another point of life. Also, this is the 4th drain as Sephiroth flips, and Dan makes the emblem. He then casts a Song of the Damned to make 5 black mana, and then casts a Post-Mortem Lunge to return the Shambler. To which he clamps the creature to make 2 more squirrels, draw 2, and drain Hidden. He clamps a squirrel to draw again, then an LED comes out, which is then followed up by an Unearth. He gets back his Shambler, clamps it, but this time holds priority to crack the LED before he draws his cards. He dishes a bunch of cards and makes 3 black mana, draws 2, and drains Hidden.
God, I didn't ever want to be in this position. Doing this crazy manual storm. Okay. Draw 2 off the Skull Clamp. Let's go! Bruh.
Dan continues to clamp and then casts a Cabal Ritual to gain 5 more mana. He clamps again and again, and sees the window closing as he casts an Eye Twitch, and then clamps it to draw 2 and then loot away another card. But alas, it looks like his deck is not behaving, as he spends the last of his mana to cast an Azumi Linebreaker, but has to pass after that. Hidden honestly didn't think he was going to make it, as he untaps and pays 3 life to cast an Aetherflux Reservoir that he discarded from the wheel. He then follows it up with a Vexing Bauble, and he can then loop a Chalice of the Void on 0 to gain infinite life off the reservoir, letting him blast the table and win him the game. Game review, man, that was tight. I did not think Dan would be able to dig like that in mono black. But even with all those extra cards, unfortunately he wasn't able to find the card he needed to combo off. But I will say I did get lucky that he decided it was now or never to go for it, as if he had just killed my Teferi instead, we would have just lost the Ghost Stealers, as Vivi was online, and he was holding up free counter magic and a Submerge, which would have drawn him so many cards. Although I think on his last turn, he might have had the win, as he could have gambled for an Into the Floodmaw to bounce my Blind Obedience, which would have unlocked his artifact mana, and while the Teferi still would have been around, it would have protected him as well. But I knew the Teferi was a risk, although I figured that worst comes to worst, Dan could have killed it at instant speed and let the table interact. Thanks to everyone that joined for the game, and before everyone leaves, I want to thank our special Patreon members, Slyfox and Holy Septic, for the support of the channel, along with all of our other Patreon supporters as well. And remember, never give up, even if you're dead on board. I'll see you guys later.